What's up, my curious viewer? Are you chilling in a little town with one traffic light or zooming through a neon-lit city? Let me know below. And please pass this video along like a good story around a campfire. Let's jump in. Jonas Heller lived in the upstairs apartment marked 2B. The space was a perfect square, 16 feet on each side, modest yet sufficient for his needs. A beige carpet, 12 by 16 feet, covered most of the floor, stopping short of the kitchen by about 4 feet. In that uncovered stretch, the landlord had laid patterned linoleum that blended seamlessly into the adjoining bathroom. Inside that tiny bathroom, Jonas placed a plain bath mat that nearly spanned the entire floor. It wasn't decorative or plush, just practical. That suited him perfectly. He had no patience anymore for extravagance, certainly not the sprawling 3,200 square foot house his wife had once insisted they purchase. He'd fought against the idea at the time, but like so many arguments in their marriage, she had won. The house had been meant for the three of them, Jonas, his wife Jasmine, and their teenage daughter, Dahlia. But even then, Jonas knew the extra space was pointless. Dahlia had been counting the days until she could leave for college, chattering endlessly about Florida State after their campus tour. Still, Jonas signed the papers, grudgingly handing over a 25% down payment, $52,500. 2 years later, with Dahlia off at school, Jasmine had delivered her familiar lines. "We've grown apart. It's not you, it's me. This will bring us closer together." Jonas failed to see how taking up with a 32-year-old man was supposed to repair their marriage. This time, though, he didn't bend. Calmly packing his suitcase, he announced he was leaving. That calmness seemed to enrage Jasmine more than any shouting match ever had, her lovely features twisting into something harsh, almost unrecognizable. "You'll walk out with nothing!" she shrieked. "Better than staying with a wrinkled old whore," Jonas muttered, zipping the case shut. Before stepping out, Jonas installed a network of tiny cameras he'd purchased from Miller's Electronics. Hiding them wasn't difficult. Jasmine's lax housekeeping meant she rarely noticed the little things. Soon enough, the footage revealed her lover, Brent, an English teacher at Baylor Lake High, where Jasmine worked as librarian. The two had devised their own arrangement, continue the affair, then return home to their spouses as if nothing happened. But Jonas Heller hadn't become chief accountant at St. Elizabeth's Public Utilities by overlooking details. Precision was his livelihood. One evening, Jasmine and Brent met for fried catfish at Sweet Peas. Their plans went sideways when Brent's parents showed up at the same restaurant. Red-faced, Brent introduced Jasmine only as a colleague. "So where's Marina?" his mother pressed. She's home with the girls," Brent stammered. "Funny," his father said flatly. "She told me she had a parent-teacher meeting tonight." Yeah, there was a break," Brent improvised weakly. "We decided to grab dinner." Neither parent looked convinced. The rest of the meal unfolded under an awkward silence. Afterward, Jasmine dragged Brent to Foxtrot's lounge to dance, a pastime she adored and Jonas had always detested, blaming his 2 left feet. Fate struck again. Jasmine's mother and stepfather were already on the dance floor. "Your husband slipped Roger a couple $100 to bring me here," her mother teased, before eyeing Brent curiously. "But what are you doing here?" Jasmine faltered. "Jonas doesn't really like dancing, so—" "Come on, Marta, they're playing our song," Roger interrupted, tugging her toward the music. "That's not our song, you silly old man." Marta laughed but went along anyway. Though embarrassed, Jasmine kept the night alive. For her, the affair carried a thrill of rebellion. For Brent, it was simply convenience. Later that evening, they pulled into Jasmine's South Shore Baylor Lake home. Brent gave a low whistle. "Nice place," he said, stepping inside. "Thanks," Jasmine purred. "Hi, Brent," a calm voice greeted from the living room. Marina, Brent's wife, sat waiting on the couch. What are you doing here?" Brent stammered. "I thought I'd show your wife and kids where you've been spending your time," Jonas said, stepping in with a box of belongings. "Evening, Jasmine. Just finishing up packing the last of my things." "I warned you," Marina hissed, rising to her feet. After Stacy, I was done. The pregnant woman crossed the room and slapped Brent hard. Well, Jonas remarked lightly, heading toward the door. Looks like you've got plenty to talk about. By the way, the girls loved the pool. He gestured toward the backyard, where two children splashed with a neighbor's kid. Don't forget, you owe Danny $12 for babysitting. Then he left without another word. The house carried nearly $84,000 in equity. Jasmine fell apart, screaming, sobbing, begging Jonas to forgive her. She didn't want to lose the property, the $17,000 worth of furniture, or the new Mercedes still under a 3-year loan. But she knew, deep inside, she couldn't keep any of it on her own. When her attorney, Parker Johnson, laid out the financial reality, Jasmine nearly collapsed. Jasmine had promised to shoulder half of Dahlia's college tuition along with her living expenses. For someone surviving on the meager paycheck of a school librarian, it was nothing short of generous. When she timidly brought up the idea of moving back in with her mother, Marta, as a way to cut costs, the older woman responded with an incredulous laugh. "Oh, darling," Marta said lightly, though there was a note of disbelief hidden in her tone. Jasmine exhaled sharply. "That's the best I can do, Mom. Sweetheart, you know there are only 2 bedrooms here," Roger interjected gently. Marta let out a long sigh and shook her head. "I'm just thankful your father isn't alive to witness this," she muttered, raising a skeptical eyebrow toward her daughter. "Do you even remember what happened back then?" Her memory was as sharp as ever. "You once brought Jonas Haber home. Your father swore the man was trouble, called him a snake in the grass, and then he had to swallow those words when he realized he'd been wrong. Not long after that conversation, their oldest son, Jared Jr., placed a call to his father. "Dad, Mom's asking if she can stay here," JJ explained hesitantly. "You've got an extra room, don't you?" Jonas asked. "If you do, let her stay." I don't want to cause any drama," JJ admitted quietly. "Son," Jonas said firmly, "that woman raised you. She changed your diapers, fed you, cleaned up after you. If you've got the space, you give it to her." "Love you, Dad," JJ murmured before hanging up. Meanwhile, Marina Maddox held fast to her vow. She would never forgive Brent for trying to betray her trust. Eventually, Brent's finances collapsed. He couldn't survive on half his income and ended up moving back in with his parents. This arrangement, at least, allowed his mother and father to see more of their granddaughters, Amelia and Amanda. Later, when Marina gave birth to a son and named him Barry after her own father, the grandparents quickly adored him too. "Barry?" Brent protested in disbelief. "Weren't we supposed to name him after me?" "That was before," Marina snapped, her voice like ice. "But you made sure there's no us anymore." Jonas, on his end, had originally planned to stay in the apartment only for a short while. But to his surprise, he grew fond of the simplicity it offered. No sprawling yard to mow, no autumn leaves to rake, no endless list of home repairs. One small closet neatly contained 12 suits, 12 dress shirts, 2 dozen ties, 3 pairs of shoes, and 2 coats, one long, one short. A single chest of drawers held 4 pairs of jeans, a dozen undershirts, 12 pairs of socks, and several casual shirts. The furnishings were minimal: his favorite armchair, 2 shelves lined with books, a small dining table with 2 chairs, and a full-size bed. There wasn't even a television, though he did briefly consider borrowing the one from Dahlia's room until he realized there wasn't anything worth watching anyway. Jonas still loved football, especially the Saints, but whenever a game aired, Red's Sports Bar offered everything he needed: a massive 61-inch screen, icy beer, spicy chicken wings, jalapeno nachos, and more beer to wash it all down. For anything else, streaming on his computer sufficed. To his own surprise, Jonas discovered he enjoyed cooking. Jasmine had once scolded him endlessly for the mess he left behind in the kitchen, but now his only options were frozen meals or learning to fend for himself. He chose the latter, and grew surprisingly skilled at it. One evening, While driving home with groceries for a new bacon and chicken recipe a coworker had recommended, Jonas's attention snagged on a building he passed every day. That night, for no reason he could name, he glanced up. Through wide windows draped with bright curtains, he caught a glimpse of movement and light. Inside Kizzy's dance school, 7 couples swayed and spun across the floor in perfect rhythm. The sight held Jonas frozen in place until the blare of a horn jolted him back to reality. He swung into the parking lot, turned off the ignition, and sat silently, watching. A young instructor glided between the couples with effortless grace, offering corrections with a warm smile. Even from outside, Jonas felt as though he could almost hear the music pulsing through the glass. When the class ended and the dancers drifted into the evening air, he made up his mind. "Hi there. Need some help?" The teacher greeted him with a bright smile, stepping away from an older couple who were gathering their things. "Yes, I'm here alone. Do you teach singles?" Jonas stammered, unsure why he'd even walked in. It looked incredible watching them. Kizzy's grin widened and she clasped his trembling hands. "Well, today's your lucky day," she said cheerfully. "Lucky?" Jonas muttered, still doubtful. "Come on," she said, tugging him toward the desk. "Let's get you signed up." Before he even realized what he'd agreed to, Jonas had enrolled in a 12-week course. "Come Wednesday at 6, Kizzy instructed, handing him a slip of paper. "I'll introduce you to your partner then." Jonas stepped out into the night with a smile tugging at his lips. "Maybe this really is my lucky day," he murmured to himself. Later that night, humming tunes that weren't even playing, Jonas cooked dinner with a lightness he hadn't felt in years. His thoughts wandered back to those dancers, floating effortlessly across the wooden floor. He remembered the first time he met Jasmine Aldridge back in their Cabrini High School days. Her family had just moved from the tiny town of Stepping Stone, Louisiana, after her father landed a job at the Baggett mattress factory. She wasn't the kind of girl who turned every head, not striking, not plain, just quietly lovely. Jonas himself was equally unremarkable. He wasn't rich, wasn't handsome in any traditional way, and definitely wasn't among the school's athletes or stars. In the end, they were simply 2 ordinary teenagers whose paths happened to cross in an ordinary place. He didn't drive anything flashy. Poetry wasn't his language, and a dance floor wasn't where he shined, but cleverness that he had in spades. For weeks, Jasmine Aldridge had existed on the edges of Cabrini High's glittering social ladder, unseen by those who ruled it. So, when Jonas Heller quietly asked if she wanted Chinese at Jade Garden, her chest felt like it might burst. And when her father dismissed Jonas as a snake in the grass, a mutt in heat, Jonas's image in her mind only climbed higher. The fall dance was fast approaching, and Jasmine held her breath each day, waiting for Jonas to ask her to be his date. When the day came, she couldn't wait any longer and asked when he planned to invite her. Jonas's answer was soft, honest. He couldn't dance. So she accepted an invitation from Joe Mansella instead. Overnight, Jasmine and Joe were suddenly an item. Jonas said nothing, though disappointment simmered under his calm exterior. He was practical about it. They were both 18, after all, free to see whomever they liked. In a matter of months, he'd head to the University of Southwest Louisiana in Lafayette, and Jasmine would be charting her own course. Odds were, they'd never collide again. And yet, Joe Mansella's smug grin still burned Jonas's nerves raw. "Hey, Heller," Joe called one day, smirk curling at his lips. "How's life treating you?" "Pretty good, Mansella," Jonas replied coolly. Then, deliberately, "How's Gina doing?" tossing in a mention of Joe's sister, infamous for her scandalous reputation. Joe had muscle. Jonas had wit. The first swing was Joe's. Jonas sidestepped, and Joe's fist slammed hard into the cinder-block wall. "Ouch!" Jonas remarked with an almost laugh, watching Joe stare at his swelling knuckles in stunned silence. Jasmine dated a few more boys after that, as if testing whether Jonas would care enough to intervene. But each attempt fizzled. Inevitably, she found her way back to him. She never attended the winter dance. She skipped the spring one, too. Jonas Heller still wouldn't step onto a dance floor. Nearly 30 years later, in apartment 2B, Jonas was finally ready to learn. Chapter 2. It was a Wednesday morning. Jonas left home dressed in burgundy shoes, a medium brown suit, a pale blue shirt, and a burgundy tie. The shoes, worn soft with time, were his most comfortable pair. "I could have sworn today was Wednesday," Jill from HR teased as he passed her cubicle. "It is Wednesday," Jonas replied. "Then where's your dark blue Wednesday suit?" she joked. "You know, blue-gray tie or the one with yellow polka dots?" "Retired it," Jonas grinned. "Time for something different." "Is that new?" asked Rhonda from accounting, eyebrows lifted. "Nope," said Bill from IT, leaning over the cubicle wall. "That's his Friday suit." "Oh." Rhonda blinked, studying Jonas's outfit for another moment before turning back to her screen. "No, Bill. See? It's stuck again. Won't load the next page." If his wardrobe change caused mild confusion, his leaving work 20 minutes early caused mild panic. Jonas drove straight to Tommy's Po' Boys, the sandwich shop beside the dance studio. He was ready to order his usual ham and cheese with olive spread, until he stopped himself. "No," he said to the cashier. "Make it the big shrimp. Hot sauce. Keep the bottle on the table. And a Coke." He ate slowly, checked his watch, and then walked next door to the studio. Heart pounding, he popped a mint and stood apart from the other students, every one of them paired up. "Hey, you made it!" Kizzy, the instructor, called brightly when she spotted him. "Meet Marina Maddox. She's your partner tonight." Jonas froze for a heartbeat. The last time he'd seen Marina, she'd been 7 or 8 months pregnant, her soft, pretty face swinging between blotchy tears and flushed fury as she chased after 2 tiny girls. Now Marina Maddox stood 4'11", rounded in nearly every way, round face, button mouth, nub nose, wide brown eyes. Every bit of her radiated gentleness. "Hey, Bubbles," Jonas greeted instinctively. She blinked, startled, then laughed. "Why do you call me that?" Jonas flushed under the curious stares of the other couples. "No idea," he admitted. "Just first thing that came to mind." Marina's parents had paid for 12 weeks of dance lessons, mostly to get her out of the house. At her first session, there had been no male partners available, so she'd simply sat on the sidelines, quietly admiring the dancers' footwork. Then Kizzy sent Jonas a text and convinced him to join this week. By midway through the lesson, Jonas was drenched. He shrugged out of his jacket. Without thinking, Marina reached up to loosen his tie and undo the top button of his collar. "There," she said matter-of-fact as they practiced the box step. "Better." "Relax, Jonas," Kizzy called from across the room. "Let the music do the work." When class ended, Marina squeezed his hand. "You'll be here next week, right? Say yes. I had a great time." "You had fun dancing with an old man?" Jonas teased, holding his suit jacket with a grin. "You're not exactly ancient," she murmured gently. "I'm twice your age," he replied without hesitation. "Maybe so, but that doesn't change anything," she answered. "I'll be here," he promised, with a faint, crooked smile. As they swayed together, he held her gaze, searching the depths of her dark brown eyes. Her quiet smile in return sent warmth crawling up his cheeks. Later, when she stepped out of the hall, he stood back and watched her leave. At the doorway, sensing his stare, Marina turned and gave him a wide, playful grin. "Had a good time?" Kizzy asked, sidling up beside him. "You know what? I actually did," Jonas confessed. "I mean, I know I'm terrible at it, but yeah, I had fun." "First off, you're not terrible. You're just learning," Kizzy reassured. "And second," her partner added, "dancing's meant to be fun. That's the point. Focus on that and the rest will come naturally." "Exactly," Kizzy agreed, nodding. The next morning, Jonas reached for the suit he normally wore on Thursdays, then hesitated and swapped it for Wednesdays instead. "You've completely lost me." Jill teased as he walked down the corridor. He just grinned. His phone buzzed, JJ's name flashing on the screen. He answered. Dad? You there? Can you hear me? Shauna? JJ's voice cut in and out. Your mom driving you up the wall? Jonas guessed. Pretty much. Did you hear the school fired her? JJ asked. No. They did. And Brent got let go too, JJ continued. Seriously? What for? Jonas said. Did she tell you why? Nope. I tried asking. She just kept saying she didn't want to talk about it. Jonas knew the move well, Jasmine's trademark way of shutting down anything she didn't want to discuss. I don't want to talk about it, repeated until everyone gave up. And with Shauna, the baby's due in a couple months. JJ trailed off. I'll handle it, Jonas sighed. They met later at Jade Gardens. Jonas couldn't help smiling when he saw her, though the expression carried more sorrow than joy. Jasmine had clearly dressed as if it were a date, heavy makeup, a dress clinging tighter than it should. A year earlier, he might have been delighted by the effort. Now, it felt forced, an aging woman refusing to accept the change staring back at her. Don't you look beautiful, he said politely, sliding into the seat across from her. Thanks, and you? Is that a new suit? She asked. Yeah, Jonas replied. Wore the wrong one the other day, confused everybody. Figured I'd shake things up, donated the old ones, bought new. Must be nice, Jasmine muttered. It is, he said simply. The waitress arrived. Ready to order? You know what's funny, Jasmine, Jonas said. I already know what you're gonna pick. Same thing every single time. Bet you $1,000 you can't guess mine. She paused, trying to recall. Spring rolls and sweet and sour pork, Jonas said for her. That's it, Jasmine admitted with a faint smile. And I'll have iced tea, sweet and sour, kung pao chicken, and fried rice, Jonas told the waitress. So, how have things been? Jasmine asked once the waitress left. Good, Jonas answered. Work steady. Got myself a bachelor pad. Bought new suits. Prices aren't what they used to be. Oh, and Rhonda's pregnant, so I'll probably have to replace her soon. What about you? The waitress returned with his iced tea. Jasmine launched into a litany of grievances, losing her job, crashing at JJ and Shauna's place, endless tension with Shauna, resentment still lingering from Dahlia. Penelope and Percy were nicer about it at least, but neither had room for her. So I'm stuck, she finished bitterly. Then get your own place, you're a grown woman, Jonas said as their plates arrived. With what? My charm? My looks? Jasmine shot back. I just told you I'm unemployed. Then try your sparkling personality, Jonas said dryly. Go to hell, Jonas. Just eat, he muttered, digging into his food. This dish somehow gets spicier every time I order it. When dessert came, her chocolate ice cream, his Neapolitan, Jasmine broached the subject of reconciliation. Not just no, Jonas said with a wry grin, but hell no. Why not? She nearly shouted. So I can sit around waiting for the next time you decide we've drifted apart? When suddenly it's not about me anymore, it's about you needing more excitement? Excitement that doesn't even matter? No thanks. Do you think this will make us stronger somehow? Jonas asked as he scooped another bite of ice cream. Jasmine's hands clenched against the table. The urge to fling her dessert at his spotless new suit nearly overpowered her, but before she could act, the waitress reappeared and wordlessly slid the check toward them. Jonas barely glanced at the total before slipping his credit card onto the tray. The waitress whisked it away with a practiced, expressionless nod. It's probably just hormones, Jasmine murmured under her breath, unsure if she wanted him to hear. I'm older now. My cycle's been unpredictable lately. And instead of seeing Dr. Pellier about it, Jonas said evenly, signing the receipt with cold precision and adding a perfunctory 15% tip, your solution was to sleep with someone else. He actually listened, Jasmine snapped, voice cracking. You never did. You were always buried in your work. Brent, I was buried in driving our daughter everywhere, Jonas interrupted sharply, rising from his seat. While you were chasing, whatever it was you were chasing, I was keeping us from falling apart. His face was tired, his eyes darker than she'd ever seen them. You want to know what's funny? His voice rose with each word. I've heard every excuse in the book. How it's my fault, your hormones, how Brent cared. But do you know what I haven't heard from you? Not once? Jasmine swallowed hard. What? I'm sorry, he said. I am sorry, she blurted out. JJ and Shauna need that room for their baby, Jonas replied flatly. You'll have to move out. St. Elizabeth Courthouse has programs, jobs, apartments, whatever. Use them. Another bridge turned to ash. Jasmine stormed back to JJ and Shauna's cramped bungalow and, still fuming, hurled an ugly slur at Shauna on her way out. Thanks, Dad, JJ muttered bitterly over the phone later. I told your mother you needed the space for the baby, Jonas said stiffly. What she screamed after that is on her, not me. By Friday, Jonas had shocked everyone at St. Elizabeth Community Services, not with drama, but with his clothes. Gone was the stiff brown suit he always wore. Instead, he walked in wearing khakis and a button-down, and the following Wednesday, he upped the surprise even more. Snug blue jeans, a casual shirt, loafers, and his old suit tossed over one shoulder. When he left the building at 5:10 p.m., whispers rippled through the office. You're leaving half an hour early? Rhonda teased, eyebrow raised. Go, Jonas, go, Jonas, go, Jonas, Garrett from IT chanted from his desk. That evening at Tommy's, Jonas ordered fried oysters and a Coke. He ate quietly, conceding, begrudgingly, that they were good, though not nearly as good as his go-to hot ham and cheese with olive dressing. You never know until you try, he muttered, almost amused at himself. Marina was already there, waving him over with a grin that lit up her whole face. She jogged toward him, practically bouncing. This is so much better than that uptight suit, she teased, brushing his arm lightly. Hey, Bubbles, Jonas said, smiling without realizing it. She laughed at the nickname, delighted. For the first time in months, something in him loosened. He felt light, almost happy. All right, back to the kids, Marina said after Kizzy congratulated the group on a good session. Barry's probably screaming for food by now. Barry? Jonas asked, curious. Our youngest? Marina laughed. He's fine, as long as the diaper's dry. How are the older two? Jonas asked. Millie's been asking why she can't stay with her dad most of the time, Marina admitted quietly. And now Mandy's starting to copy her. Barry, though, he just eats and sleeps. No questions yet. See you next Wednesday, Bubbles, Jonas said warmly as they parted. I'll think up a nickname for you, she teased over her shoulder. Looking forward to it, he replied with a grin. A few days later, Percy, one of Jonas's older kids, called, voice frazzled. Dad, you've got to do something, Percy groaned. She's been crashing here for 2 days, and Addison's losing it. Jonas sighed. What do you expect me to do, arrest her? That's what your mom threw at me when I told her to leave your place. When Jasmine called him later, her tone was defeated. My rent's only $4.25 a month, Jonas said bluntly. Don't tell me you can't manage $4.25. I lost my job, she muttered. Nobody wants to rent to someone unemployed. Jasmine, we sold the house, Jonas reminded her. We both walked away with 42 grand. Where's your share? She didn't answer. Instead, she begged him to let her come back. Remember when I asked if you wanted to go to the Catskills? Jonas said quietly. The last vacation I ever suggested. Do you remember what you told me? No, she snapped. I don't. I do, Jonas replied coldly. You said, why bother? So now I'm asking you the same thing. Why bother trying again? Even Penelope, one of their daughters, had to admit the hard truth to her mother. As much as she loved her, there simply wasn't room for Jasmine in her apartment anymore. Aside from your mother, you can't stand dogs. And Samson and Delilah? They'd been here long before you ever entered the picture, Penelope muttered under her breath, her 2 towering Irish wolfhounds circling her legs and nudging for attention. Chapter 3. So, Jonas, where exactly do you think you're heading? Jill called out as he strode past her cubicle, his suit jacket slung casually over one shoulder. Jonas chuckled. Excuse me? Do I grill you every time you leave the office? Yeah, but you don't usually walk out of here with that kind of grin, Jill teased, leaning forward on her desk. Her tone was playful, But it only made Jonas more guarded. He knew better than to tell Jill anything personal. If he did, the secret wouldn't survive the hour. By tomorrow morning, every single employee at St. Elizabeth's Community Services would know the whole story. They already knew about his breakup with Jasmine, and most of them were painfully aware of how ugly things had gotten. The women in the office had lined up to bash his ex, insisting not all women were like her. The men weren't much better. Half of them clapped him on the shoulder in silent commiseration, as if he'd returned from battle, while the rest avoided his eyes altogether. "Fine," Jonas murmured, lowering his voice, "but this doesn't leave this cubicle." "Me? Spill your secret? Never," Jill replied, feigning innocence. "After the divorce and the pay cut, I had to find a way to make ends meet," Jonas began. "Oh, I know that witch," Jill muttered in solidarity. Jonas leaned closer. "So, I started posing for the ULD art classes." "You what?" Jill blinked. "At the University of Louisiana at DeHarty," he clarified quickly. "They pay $100 a session. All I have to do is stand there, naked." The first session had been torture, every nerve screaming with embarrassment. He'd blushed so hard one student joked about running out of red paint. He somehow kept it together until he made it to his car, where he finally burst into laughter and didn't stop until he pulled into the lot at Kizzy's dance studio. "What's got you smiling like that, jackhammer?" Marina teased as soon as he walked in, looping her arm through his. Still flushed, Jonas told her the whole story, almost word for word. Marina clapped a hand over her mouth, giggling. "I'd pay good money to draw you," she teased slyly, just as Kizzy's booming voice called the class to attention. "Ready for this, jackhammer?" Marina teased again. "That's what all the ladies call me," Jonas shot back with a smirk. Marina's face went scarlet. "That's not what I meant," she squealed, swatting his arm. "She hit me!" Jonas exclaimed dramatically, clutching his side. "You should have heard what he said," Marina countered, glaring at him playfully. "I'll think of a new nickname for you," she promised as they began their steps. "Whatever you say, Bubbles," Jonas grinned, spinning her across the floor. "Perfect!" Kizzy shouted approvingly, and the other dancers cheered as Jonas and Marina stumbled through their final turn. After class, Jonas hesitated before speaking. If you're free, maybe we could grab a coffee?" he stammered. Marina's smile was warm but tinged with apology. "I can't. Still breastfeeding, remember?" "Oh, right," Jonas said quickly. "Totally forgot. What about a huge malt at Clark's?" Her grin widened as she slipped her hand into his. "Now that sounds perfect." Jonas practically glowed. "My car's out front." But when Marina stepped outside and spotted his tiny smart car parked at the curb, she burst into laughter and shoved him toward her minivan. "No way am I getting into that thing," she laughed. "It's like trying to stuff a basketball into a golf ball." "They're roomier than they look," Jonas protested, but didn't argue when she jingled her own keys. Marina quickly texted her parents, "Going to Clark's. Yes, it's a date." By the time they drove the 2 miles to the diner, her phone buzzed 8 separate times. "Want to answer that?" Jonas asked. "God, no," she groaned, muting it. "That's just my family. They've officially lost it." At Clark's, Marina ordered an oversized chocolate malt, while Jonas opted for a dipped vanilla cone. "So, Jonas Rabbit, why dancing?" Marina asked, watching the waitress hurry off. "Jonas Rabbit?" Jonas echoed with a grin. "Yeah, that's what your girlfriends call you, isn't it?" He laughed. Something like that. Her phone buzzed again, and she rolled her eyes. "And quit checking out those girls in short shorts." "I wasn't," Jonas muttered softly. "I was thinking about how good you look in them." Before Marina could respond, a police cruiser pulled into the lot beside them. "Perfect," Marina muttered under her breath as her older brother stepped out in full uniform. "Phone trouble?" Officer Richard Voisin asked dryly. "Nope," Marina replied flatly. "Just ignoring it. And you?" Richard smirked. "Uh-huh." Jonas extended a hand awkwardly. "Hi, I'm—" "Jonas Archibald Heller, Sr.," Richard interrupted. "Already ran your plates." "Really?" Jonas said, caught completely off guard. "Are you kidding me, Marina?" she hollered. "I can't even buy my own malt anymore?" Richard leaned over with a mischievous grin and gave her nose a playful pinch. Not after what Brent pulled on you, he joked. You're officially under supervision until further notice. Yeah, he continued, motioning toward Jonas with his chin. Don't stress about missing those calls. I told everyone you're okay. He strolled toward his car without waiting for a reply. I hate you, she shouted after him. Yeah, well, I love you too, Richard said over his shoulder, grinning as he opened the car door. We'll bring him by Sunday. Jonas chuckled, and Marina found herself laughing as well. I'm seriously so sorry about all of this, she said, half laughing, half groaning. Awkward first date, huh? Jonas teased. Awkward? No way. This is literally the best first date I've ever had, Jonas declared proudly, and that's what I'm calling you from now on. She shrieked with laughter and gulped down a huge sip of her malt. Archibald, oh my God, don't you dare! It fits perfectly, doesn't it? She teased, smirking as Jonas groaned in protest. Her phone buzzed non-stop, but she ignored it while they finished their ice cream. By the time they parked beside each other in Kizzy's dance school lot, now completely deserted, they lingered in conversation, voices soft, reluctant to leave. Marina noticed Jonas fiddling with his hands, visibly nervous. Aishi, she murmured, tilting her head. Are you about to kiss me? Yes, he confessed quietly. Grabbing him by the front of his shirt, she pulled him in and kissed him first. Give me your number, she whispered once they broke apart. You're coming to Sunday dinner whether you want to or not. 31 messages, she muttered, glancing at her phone. Seriously? After one more drawn-out kiss, Jonas stepped out, waved, and drove away, leaving Marina alone in the silent lot. 31 unread messages waiting. Chapter 4. When Jonas stepped into the office building, Whitney, the bald, pretty receptionist at the front desk, flushed a bright pink and greeted him warmly. As he climbed to the third floor, more women blushed, a few darted their eyes away, and even some men suppressed giggles. Garrett spotted him from down the hall and shot him a thumbs up. The memory of what he had confessed to Jill the night before hit Jonas, and he burst out laughing. You didn't tell anybody, did you? He asked Jill when he found her in the break room. Me? Of course not, Jill replied with feigned innocence, though her guilty expression gave her away. By Sunday, Jonas looked unexpectedly put together, khakis, a Saints pullover, shirt neatly tucked in. See, he does know how to dress, Barry Voisin, Marina's father, muttered to her older brother. Mr. Afji, are we swimming at your house again? Chirped Amelia, better known as Millie Myers. I'm afraid not, sweetheart. I don't live there anymore, Jonas said, then suddenly remembered the pool at his apartment complex. Wait, my new place has a pool. Can we swim there instead? Mandy piped up hopefully. Sure, no problem, Jonas said with a shrug. Marina leaned in close and whispered, Do you really want to see me in a swimsuit? Absolutely, Jonas answered without hesitation. You're the worst, she said, laughing loudly. Later, during dinner, Jonas casually mentioned to Barry and Richard that he often watched Saints games at Red's sports bar. They've got the spiciest wings you'll ever try, Jonas said. After 2 bites, you can't even feel your tongue. They still serve those? Barry asked, eyes lighting up. Sure do, Jonas and Richard said in unison. If anyone noticed that Marina's boyfriend was 2 decades older, they kept it to themselves. When Jonas and Barry both reached for the last biscuit, Marie Voisin smacked Barry's knuckles with a spoon. He's our guest, she scolded. Let him have it. But I need that biscuit, Barry complained, patting his belly. I'm wasting away here. Jonas chuckled. Can't have that. Go ahead and take it. You clearly need it more than I do. Barry grinned like a kid. See you Wednesday, Jonas said, bidding farewell to Marina's 6 siblings, Millie and Mandy, and her parents. Do I really have to wait that long? Marina whispered to him. Not unless you want to, Jonas teased. We could hit side by side or foxtrot sooner. Pretty sure we've practiced enough. Side by side? Marie perked up. Barry, why don't you ever take me there? Because I'm cheap, Barry said shamelessly. We're taking my van, Marina announced as they stepped outside. Not that little thing you call a car, she added, wrinkling her nose at Jonas's smart car. "What's wrong with it?" Jonas protested. "This," she laughed, pointing at the tiny vehicle. "It's a Mercedes-Benz," Jonas said with certainty. Marina tilted her head, an amused smile tugging at her lips. "That is not a Mercedes-Benz." "I'm telling you it is," Jonas replied with a light laugh. "Mercedes makes it." They kissed, soft, unhurried, yet mindful of the many eyes fixed on them. Her entire family stood nearby, pretending not to watch, but failing miserably. When they finally pulled apart, Jonas promised he'd be back at 6:30 the next evening. He was surprised how easily the old rhythms of his childhood slipped back into his speech around them. His mother's parents barely spoke English, conversing almost entirely in Cajun French. His father's parents managed English, but spoke with thick accents, reverting to Cajun French whenever emotions ran high. Supper at home had always been a jumble of the two languages, voices overlapping in melody and chaos. Whenever Jonas Heller and Eliza Cynthia Arnold Heller wanted privacy, they switched to Cajun French, believing none of their three sons understood. They never suspected all three were fluent. Over time, through high school and college, Jonas's own accent faded. Working as an administrator for St. Elizabeth Community Services, he'd trained himself to speak cleanly, free of inflection. But every lunch with Voisin brought those familiar cadences rushing back. Later that afternoon, Jonas looked up the number for Side by Side Steakhouse and left a voicemail requesting a two-person reservation for 6:45 the next night. Even a phone call from his ex-wife couldn't dim the buoyant mood he carried. "Jonas, it's me," came Jasmine's voice, smooth and calculated. He kept his own tone neutral, careful not to let the accent she once mocked slip through. Jasmine had always turned up her nose at his family's food, calling it greasy and unhealthy. "Fat isn't food," she used to sneer. Jonas had learned long ago not to hand her ammunition. "So, how are things?" she asked lightly. "Going fine," he replied evenly. "Well, I finally did it," she sighed, as though confessing something momentous. "Got myself a little apartment." "That's good," Jonas said. "I was thinking—" Her voice softened into that practiced purr. "Maybe you could come by, see the place. I'll make those stuffed bell peppers you loved. Remember?" "Jasmine, I don't think that's a good idea." Her cheerful mask cracked instantly, collapsing into a whine. She complained about how none of their children spoke to her anymore, crying about Dahlia, her baby girl, who had cut her off completely. "Can you believe it?" she sobbed. Jonas stayed calm. "I'm busy tomorrow." "What about Wednesday?" she pressed, the tears drying as quickly as they'd come. I've got plans then too." "What kind of plans?" she demanded. Jonas offered the same half-truth he'd told Jill, taking a class, learning new things. Technically, it wasn't a lie. He had been taking courses at the University of Louisiana at Descartes for years, but he wasn't about to admit those new things were dance lessons. "Tuesday then?" she asked, voice hopeful again. "All right," he conceded. At 10:30 Monday morning, Lassie, a young hostess from the steakhouse, called to confirm his reservation. 2 guests, 6:40 p.m. sharp. "We're excited to have you join us, Mr. Heller," she said warmly. "Not half as excited as I am," Jonas quipped, earning a laugh from her. Marina laughed too when he called to remind her of their date. "As if I could think about anything else," she teased. "Love you." She hung up before he could reply. Jasmine hadn't told him she loved him until nearly a year into their relationship, and only after he'd said it first. She had never used pet names either. Honey or baby surfaced only when she wanted something. Marina, in contrast, overflowed with affection, warmth saturating every word. That evening, at exactly 6:30, Jonas once again found himself greeted by Marina's entire clan, parents, siblings, nieces, and nephews. She had 1 nephew, Richie, and 3 nieces, Mealy, Mandy, and Barry, the youngest, whose gap-toothed grin made Jonas chuckle. Marina wore a fitted dress, clearly purchased long before Amelia's pregnancy, yet it was undeniably her finest. "Bubbles," Jonas whispered appreciatively. "I need to run home and put on something decent." What? You look great, she laughed, taking in his black pinstripe suit, white shirt, and deep red tie. Not half as good as you, he murmured, making her blush. Why don't you ever say things like that to me? Marie teased Barry. Because if I did, I'd never stop saying them, Barry shot back, earning laughter and a kiss from his wife. I'll give y'all a police escort, Richard joked. You do, and I'll kill you, Marina shot back, grinning. Right this way, Mr. Heller, the hostess greeted warmly as they stepped inside the restaurant. Marina's eyes swept across the elegant dining room in wonder. The fanciest place she'd ever been before was Casa Olé, a laid-back Mexican spot. Here, the menus didn't even list prices, a detail she noticed with equal parts awe and nervousness. Darling, this way you'll never have to worry about making a choice again, Jonas whispered softly, gently holding Marina's slender hand. Anything you desire will always be yours, he added quietly. Whenever you're with me, you'll always receive exactly what you wish for. Do you understand? A gentle warmth spread through Marina as she looked into Jonas's warm, deep brown eyes. I love you, he concluded affectionately. Yes, Marina whispered back, eyes widening slightly as an involuntary gasp slipped from her lips. She quickly regained her composure, adding, I'm just so happy you said it first, because I love you too. Jonas smiled warmly, eyes shining. Really? Marina murmured joyfully, her own eyes glowing. Their ribeye steaks arrived perfectly prepared, crisp and caramelized on the outside, locking in the flavorful juices and gently pink within. Marina found the generous serving challenging and managed only half, while Jonas eagerly cleaned his entire plate. Both silently acknowledged dessert would need to wait. Chapter 5. What's got you smiling today? Jill asked playfully as Jonas stepped out of the office, casually attired in his usual midweek ensemble of jeans and a relaxed shirt. Jonas looked momentarily puzzled. Smiling? Yesterday you left looking as if you'd lost your best friend, Jill teased gently. But today, you're practically glowing like it's your birthday. Jonas's smile grew broader as he walked toward the elevator, reflecting on the evening before when he'd visited his ex-wife's new place. Jasmine had settled into a spacious two-bedroom apartment, slightly larger than Jonas's. The complex was respectable. No abandoned cars, well-kept lawns, and neatly maintained interiors with pristine white walls and simple beige carpets. Dinner had consisted of stuffed peppers served alongside Jasmine's signature broccoli casserole, hot from the oven. As was tradition, the voisins paused for grace, Jonas initiating the blessing. Relax, it isn't poisoned, Jasmine joked lightly as Jonas bowed his head. Throughout dinner, Jasmine vented her frustrations, the exorbitant rent, overpriced furniture, tiresome court responsibilities, and loud neighbors. As expected, she broached the subject of reconciliation. Are you even paying attention? Jasmine snapped, unable to conceal her irritation. Jonas calmly finished the last bite of his casserole, sipped his cloudy iced tea, and met her gaze directly. Why did you cheat on me? He asked bluntly. Excuse me? She retorted defensively. How does that matter now? It matters completely, Jonas responded steadily, deliberately placing his napkin down. Jasmine, you decided to be with Brent Mélenchon, even after I explicitly warned you what it would cost us. Yet you went ahead anyway. But nothing serious even happened. Only because things didn't work out as planned, Jonas interrupted firmly. You underestimated my reaction. You never thought I'd actually go through with the divorce, or that things wouldn't go precisely your way for once. Jasmine's voice rose sharply. See, you're equally at fault. You always... Jonas abruptly stood, cutting her off mid-sentence. Jasmine, you've never once apologized. You can't just walk away like that, Jasmine insisted hotly. Actually, Jasmine, I can, he said resolutely, moving toward the door. Don't call me again. We have nothing left to say. Later, Jonas visited Clark's diner, savoring a chili cheeseburger and a creamy vanilla malt. The waitress eyed his modest car skeptically. I'd be scared driving something that small, she commented. Jonas smiled confidently, But it gets 42 miles per gallon, he cheerfully replied. At home, Jonas and Marina exchanged numerous affectionate messages until around 10 o'clock. Good night, Avci, Marina messaged, punctuating with a kiss emoji. Love you, good night, Jonas warmly responded. Love you more, Marina playfully countered. Jonas laughed aloud as Marina sent a mischievous emoji. I know, he replied with amusement. When Wednesday came, Jonas eagerly anticipated his dance with Bubbles. Whitney shyly wished him a good evening, her face gently flushed. Following a satisfying dinner of a hot ham and cheese po' boy complemented by a zesty olive spread and a hint of spice, Jonas felt energized. Aichi! Marina called out excitedly, rushing forward into his embrace. Hello, Bubbles, Jonas greeted warmly, appreciating her radiant appearance. You look fantastic. Really? Marina responded brightly, eyes gleaming. They danced as Kizzy instructed, Jonas guiding gently, correcting occasionally, and praising generously. After the lesson, Jonas softly kissed Marina's lips. Brent has the kids this weekend, Marina murmured, almost absent-mindedly. Jonas leaned closer, sensing her thoughts. What's going through your mind? Just imagining us together, he teased gently. Marina smiled warmly, rising slightly to kiss him again. Yes, she whispered. That sounds absolutely perfect. On Thursday, Jonas finally managed to corner Barry, Marina's father, for a private man-to-man conversation. That's when the truth came out. Marina's wedding hadn't just been hurried. It had been so rushed that the couple never even got to take a honeymoon. Jonas decided to change that. He would give her the weekend she deserved, quiet, romantic, and away from everything. By Friday afternoon, he left work early to put his plan into motion. Jonas smirked when he spotted Jasmine's Mercedes parked in the high-end section of the lot. The dealership called them certified pre-owned, but everyone knew the truth. They were still used cars. Not that Jonas cared. That one, he said without hesitation. The paperwork was quick, and he drove off in Jasmine's former car, oddly pleased with himself. Back at his cramped apartment, he tossed clothes into a suitcase, then headed straight to the Voisin house, only for his good mood to falter when he saw Brent Maddox fumbling with Barry in Mandy's car seat. Millie was already strapped into the front passenger seat, watching the scene with curious eyes. A sudden thought struck Jonas. Here, let me do that, he offered, carefully lifting Barry out of Brent's awkward grip. You take Mandy instead. Hi, Mr. Avzi, Millie chirped brightly from her seat. You're not going to hit me, are you? Brent asked, half joking, half worried. Jonas chuckled. Nah, go on, take her. With practiced ease, he clicked Barry's car seat into place and tightened the latch. He bent down, pressing a quick kiss to Millie's forehead, then another to Mandy's. Can we talk for a second? He asked Brent quietly. You around Monday night? Jonas added after a beat. Monday? Yeah, I'm free, Brent said, hesitating before answering. Satisfied, Jonas helped Marina load her suitcase into the car. The drive that followed was 2 hours of uninterrupted conversation, the kind that slowly strips away layers until two people really see each other. Marina told him about Brent, how he'd been close friends with Richard for years and had always treated her kindly. I know I'm overweight, she admitted softly, but he always says hi and calls me beautiful. Hi, Jonas murmured, voice warm. You're beautiful. Her smile faltered into something tender, vulnerable. Also, I'm allergic to latex. Jonas caught her meaning instantly and smirked. He'd already bought a 12-pack of condoms, now useless. Either they'd abandon the plan or take a risk. Jonas hoped she was willing to take it. Quietly, Marina hoped the same. Traffic through Baton Rouge was a nightmare, and Jonas sighed in relief when they finally rolled past Gonzales. For Marina, a girl who'd never left Degas, Louisiana, Bourbon Street felt like another world entirely. Café du Monde quickly became her favorite spot, and Jonas promised they'd eat there every day. That evening, as warm night air wrapped the city in velvet darkness. Marina squeezed his hand and looked up at him with those deep brown eyes. "Let's go back to the room," she whispered. Chapter 6. Marina never seemed to stop talking on the way to the hotel. She chattered as they walked, filled the silence in the creaky old elevator, and kept right on talking while Jonas struggled with the stubborn keycard at their door. "Bubbles, are you nervous?" he teased in a low voice. "No," she said quickly, then hesitated, nodding against his chest. I'm fat," she admitted. "And you're gorgeous," Jonas answered, without missing a beat. He didn't lie about her size. She was probably 40 or 50 pounds heavier than average by her own guess. But denying it would have sounded fake, even cruel. Instead, he gave her truth. She was beautiful anyway. Marina perched on the edge of the bed as Jonas turned off the 2 lamps, leaving the room bathed in soft, forgiving darkness. And then, at last, they let the moment happen. Chapter 7. Brent sat at a cafe table, visibly uncomfortable. Jonas walked up to the counter, ordered a coffee with evaporated milk, and carried it over before sliding into the seat across from him. "Hey Brent, how you been?" Jonas asked casually. "Good, fine. How are you?" Brent stammered. "I'm all right," Jonas replied, sipping his coffee. "Got black bean soup waiting at home." He set the cup down, leaning forward. "So, what did you want to talk about?" Brent hesitated, then blurted, "Why does my wife want to cheat on me?" Jonas blinked, stunned by the blunt question. Of all the scenarios he'd imagined, that wasn't one of them. He swallowed a mouthful of scalding coffee, set the mug aside, and spoke carefully. "I gave her everything she ever wanted," Jonas said quietly. "That giant house she begged for? I hated it, but we bought it anyway. The Lincoln she had? Nothing wrong with it, but she wanted a Mercedes, so I got her that too." He shook his head, still bewildered. "I've never cheated, never raised a hand to her. I don't gamble. And still, she decides she wants an affair. I just don't understand why." Brent exhaled heavily. "She's getting older," he said at last, voice low. "What?" "Same here," Jonas muttered under his breath. "We're all getting older." Brent lifted a hand, cutting him off sharply. "You asked me to explain, didn't you? Then keep quiet long enough to hear it," he said, his tone flat and deliberate. For nearly a full minute they stared each other down, silence thick between them, until Jonas finally exhaled and gave a grudging nod. "She's aging," Brent began again. "Her youngest just moved out. Debbie? Dahlia," Jonas corrected softly. "Right. Dahlia. So now Jasmine feels old, like no one even sees her anymore," Brent said, his mouth twisting into something between a smirk and a shrug. "All I did was toss off a line. 'Wow, you look incredible today. Can't believe you've got a kid in college.' And she laughed. Actually laughed." "I told her that all the time," Jonas muttered, bitter. "From you?" Brent shot back immediately. "Doesn't count. You're her husband. She expects compliments from you, which makes them meaningless." Jonas's scowl deepened, but he stayed quiet. Brent tipped back his cup and drained the last of his coffee, eyes fixed on the countertop. "Another?" Jonas asked gruffly. Brent nodded. Jonas refilled his cup and returned. "She started smiling at me after that," Brent continued. "Flirting. She liked it, especially coming from someone younger." He blew on his fresh coffee, winced when it scalded his lips. "Hot," Jonas muttered, sipping his own. "That's how it happens," Brent said casually, like he was stating a universal truth. "Cindy, the school secretary, Stacy, the chem teacher, even the one Marina caught me with, it's always the same." Silence lingered a beat too long. "All it takes is a little attention," Brent added finally. Next thing, they're venting about their husbands, how he never takes them out, how he parks himself in front of the TV every night. He sipped again, grimaced at the heat. "Remember that car you bought?" Brent asked suddenly. "I mentioned it to her. 'Oh, is Jonas upset about the Saints' losing streak?' And bam! She unloaded every complaint she's got about you." He gave another shrug. Selfish jerk, right? Buys himself a car he doesn't need. Won't dance. Glued to football. Probably lousy in bed too, huh? Monday through Sunday I bust my ass for her, Jonas said through gritted teeth. Most husbands do, Brent replied evenly. All I have to do is suggest it isn't enough. Jonas's stomach twisted as he finished his coffee. The bitterness seemed sharper now. So, Marina's into you? Jonas asked softly, half to himself. Brent smirked. Always was. She was plain back then, little chubby. All I did was tell her she was cute. His expression flickered, remembering Friday night, seeing Jonas outside Marina's house. Jonas pushed himself up from his chair, thoughts swirling. So the snake left Eden and became an English teacher, he thought grimly. Despite himself, a faint smile tugged at his lips. Brent might be good at coaxing women in, but Marina had told Jonas the truth. Brent was terrible in bed. Jonas forced a polite grin, muttered a quick, "Good night," and walked out of Jitter's coffee shop. Back at his cramped apartment, Jonas reheated leftover black bean soup, splashed in more hot sauce, and ate in silence. He and Marina messaged back and forth until long after midnight. The next morning. Tuesday arrived, and Jonas woke with a grin he hadn't worn in years. It had been clinging to him for days now, but this morning it felt real. For the first time in forever, he didn't wake up feeling like a failure. He used to torture himself with questions. Why did Jasmine cheat? Was it her first time? Did I fail her somehow? As a husband? As a provider? But the fog had lifted. He finally saw it clearly. This wasn't all on him. Maybe he'd been distracted, sure, but this wasn't solely his downfall. And he realized something else. He'd outgrown that dingy apartment. Epilogue. By the 12th dance class, Jonas had already signed up for another 12. He paid for both himself and Marina, though her father, Barry, had offered to help. "What for?" Barry chuckled. "You're the one dancing with her, not me." Later, Jonas smiled as Millie latched onto one of his hands and Mandy grabbed the other. "Why exactly do we have to go to McDonald's?" he asked, amused. "Because, Mr. Avshi," Millie explained with utmost patience, "they've got burgers, fries, milkshakes, and the slide." "And toys in the box," Mandy added, grinning wide. That night, Jonas and Marina spun across the dance floor in perfect rhythm. Jonas looked at her, flushed, radiant, and she beamed back. "Hard to believe," laughed their instructor, Kizzy, "that 12 weeks ago you didn't know your left from your right." As the song faded, Jonas loosened his grip and let Marina twirl away. Then, in one swift motion, he dropped to one knee. Marina froze, stunned, as the room went silent. Every couple in the studio turned to watch. "Marina Voisin," Jonas said, his voice steady and loud. "I love you with everything I am. Will you marry me?" He opened a small box, revealing a gold ring set with a single carat diamond framed by 4 smaller stones. Marina's jaw fell open. Then she lunged at him, knocking him to the floor and kissing him fiercely as the room erupted into cheers. "Oh, Achi!" Marina burst out between fits of laughter, unable to contain herself. Around them, the nearby couples erupted into cheers, clapping and chuckling as Jonas scrambled awkwardly to his feet. "So, I'm guessing that's a yes?" Kizzy teased with a grin, watching Marina finally help Jonas up from the ground. "And don't even think about skipping out on the wedding," Marina declared proudly, raising her hand to show off the sparkling ring. "Every one of you is invited." When Jonas called to share the news, JJ didn't miss a beat. "Seriously, Dad?" he joked. "My stepmom's going to be younger than me?" Dahlia gasped in mock outrage, crossing her arms dramatically. "Wait, does this mean I'm not the baby of the family anymore?" Millie piped up earnestly. "Being the big sister is way better," she assured her. "I even get to stay up 15 minutes later than you now." Dahlia tilted her head, pretending to think. "So, technically, that means I get to stay up 15 minutes later than you too?" "Exactly," Millie answered with exaggerated seriousness, nodding as if it were a solemn agreement. Later, as the family toured Jonas's new house, Percy tugged on his father's hand with curiosity. "Dad, Why does everyone keep calling you Mr. Afta? The group paused. JJ, Shauna cradling baby Trey, Percy with his very pregnant wife Addison, and Penelope hand in hand with her partner Elisa, all waiting for Jonas's response. The first time I saw Marina, Jonas began with a nostalgic smile, I nicknamed her Bubbles. Bubbles? Elisa repeated, her delicate features twisting into an amused grin. Yeah, Jonas admitted, laughing at himself. She was just all round and wiggly back then. The name slipped out and stuck. Marina squeezed his hand, picking up the story. And then I found out his middle name is Archibald. And he's a die-hard Saints fan, Penelope added knowingly. Archie Manning is still the greatest quarterback the Saints have ever had. JJ, Percy, and Penelope chimed in together, repeating the family mantra in perfect unison. Meanwhile, Millie and Mandy proudly led their soon-to-be siblings over to the wooden stakes, outlining where the new pool would be built. Nearby, Dahlia crouched down next to her dad. Sorry, Dad, she whispered sheepishly. I might have let it slip that you and Marina are getting married next Saturday. Jonas shrugged with a soft smile. It's fine, sweetheart. It's not like I was keeping it from your mom. He chuckled quietly as Millie promised Shauna she'd teach baby Trey how to swim once the pool was finished. Well, Mom's actually kind of mad, Dahlia admitted cautiously. Jonas's expression hardened just slightly. That's her problem, he said flatly. She brought that on herself.